I keep getting calls from this like debt collector that's telling me about this cash advance debt relief, and I told them not to call anymore, and they keep calling. It's stressful and annoying. So we basically decided to put together a free debt validation letter template that tells the creditor to validate the debt and also can stop the debt collector immediately. So let's get started. Welcome to the Ascend Finance YouTube channel, where we break down complex terms and topics such as debt validation and break them down into human, simple, understandable language. My name is Ben, and I'm the co-founder here at Ascend. So here's what we're going to cover in this video. First, we'll go through the free debt validation letter. It takes only a couple of minutes, and it's free, and you can just print a PDF at the very end. Second question we're going to answer is, should you validate your debt? Third question, what is debt validation versus debt verification? It's confusing. Then after that, we're going to cover, should you hire a debt validation firm? I'll give you a little bit of my own personal experience. And finally, we're going to talk about how to resolve the debt. Now, before I begin, your situation is 100% unique. So my goal is to answer all your questions and put together this template that can help you. But if you have any questions, please comment. And if this video is helpful or encouraging and you want other videos that can help you resolve your debt cheaper, easier, and faster, feel free to subscribe, because we're always putting out new content to help you get out of debt cheaper, easier, and faster. So with all that being said, let's go through the debt validation letter. I'm going to do it myself with you so you can see exactly how easy it is to do. So first of all, I put the link in the description below, so you can just access that link. It'll take you to this webpage that basically says, free debt validation plus stop debt collector letter generator. And this is based on the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau template. So it's something that we base just off of that. So it should be legit. So first, you're just going to press let's get started. You're going to put in your address. So for the sake of this video, we'll just put 1234 Main Street. We will live in San Jose, where we are located, and then we'll put the address as 95120. Okay, so there you have it. What's your address? What city do you live in? And what is your zip code? Pretty easy, just some form information. Next, it's gonna say, what is the name of the debt collector? So obviously you may have this, you may not have it, but we're just gonna put one of the biggest debt collectors is, we'll just put example debt collector for this video. And the question is like, do you have the address of the debt collector? You can usually Google this online. If you press no, we can help you. So you can just call us. We'll get you the name of the debt collector's address. We have a database of addresses. So this is something that we can definitely help you with. But let's say you have yes. So what is the address? We're gonna put that as 1234 Not Fun Debt Collector Way. What city is it in the thing? We will put Gotham City, and we will put the zip code as 911091. So just a little bit of example of like what you're trying to, this is just the address of where you're gonna send the letter to. Next, we're gonna click next. Now, if you got the debt letter, generally you're gonna get a letter from the debt collector that's gonna tell you specifically how your account, how much debt they think you owe, etc. They might have the account number. If you have it, you can just put it here. We'll just put 543432123, whatever. And then then the next thing is, what was the date that you were contacted? Let's say that they contacted you on 4/20/2023. And how were you initially contacted by the debt collector? We're just gonna type in phone. So there's just a little bit more information about the debt. Next, this is one of maybe the more important screens. What it's asking you is, what do you want the debt collector to do? So there's a few different things. So whatever you answer on this, we will add it to the template. So it's kind of like hopefully gonna be really helpful to, and so you can kind of say, okay, well, I want them to stop contacting me, but I also want them to, validate the debt. So for this one, we are going to put, let's say, okay, do you want the debt collector to stop contacting you? I'm gonna say yes. Do you want the debt collector to validate the debt? Yes. And do you want the debt dispute having, do you have a dispute having the obligation to pay the debt? I'm just gonna say yes to all of them and see kind of what it produces. The next stage is, we built a free stop hardship portal that's 100% free, that helps you kind of resolve your debt. We built that. And so we also, you can access it here. So you can press yes if you'd like access to that. You'll still have to like confirm on the next screen, but we wanted to include that in case you're interested. And the next question is, do you have the ability to PDF and mail the letter? Now, if you do not have access, we may also be able to help with that. So we're still kind of building that piece out, but let's just say for the example that you can. But if you can't, we may be able to help with that as well. So So next, we're just gonna have to put in some information. So this is gonna say, let's say Testerson, and our email. This I'm gonna put in my an actual email, trisend.com plus hardship@gmail.com. And then the address, I will just put in 650-380-8622. And now we're just gonna submit this information and we're gonna see exactly what it generates for us. So you just click submit. Now, right here is your debt collection PDF download. You're just gonna click open. It's gonna actually download the response itself. So once you click open, it'll just download this response. You'll see it down here at the bottom. And you can kind of look at that and see what it looks like. The other two things that we built into this portal is that if you want access to the free hardship portal, where you can track all your debt collectors and stop all your debt collectors, validate that kind of thing. It's kind of like this own your own debt validation free portal. You can click here, go to the portal. And we also built a calculator that helps you kind of resolve your debt, which you can do here. I'm gonna click go to portal here. What the portal does, it's gonna actually get you signed into this portal that's actually yours. It will send an email to your email address that will tell you the password and everything. So you don't need to have that here. But on the portal, you can see, you can stop collection calls. You can check the statute of limitations on your debt. You can check the lawsuit likelihood of your creditors. So like you may send stop a debt collector, but maybe that creditor might sue you. So you can kind of see who might sue and who doesn't sue. You can, if you've gotten sued, you can, answer response. And also you can compare options. You can kind of get free evaluations from different firms that can help you resolve the debt. And here's kind of one of my favorite is that you can stop debt collection calls. So you can just add your different debt collectors and then track them and see which ones are stopping calls, which ones aren't. Sometimes you can actually get FDCPA violations if they keep contacting you after you tell them to stop, and you can actually make money from those lawsuits when they are breaking the law. We'll cover that in maybe another video, but just some things that you can consider. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about whether, should you validate the debt? And validating the debt is ultimately your decision, and you kind of know your situation best, but you may wanna ask yourself a couple questions before you validate the debt. For example, let's say you owe Chase credit card, and then that debt is sent to Midland Funding, which is one of the largest debt collection agencies in the United States. In that situation, if the debt is already maybe it just went past due a month ago, right? And you send this thing out, they may be able to validate the debt very easily, right? So if it's clear that you owe the debt and it's a major firm, and you may expect that these firms get thousands of these letters, monthly or yearly, they're gonna know how to validate the debt. So it could potentially be a waste of time if you're asking to validate all of this debt that's definitely your debt and it's valid debt, so something to consider. Now, if it's a sketchy loan company that you never saw a truth in lending disclosure, and you may have a case for debt and that the debt is invalid, and that's maybe the case. Maybe there's a wrong name on the debt or something. That may be a case when you're able to do that. But it is important to kind of ask yourself that question before you send out a bunch of debt validation letters, right? So next we're gonna cover another major question, which is debt validation versus debt verification. And I want to let you know, don't let anyone trick you, because debt validation and debt verification are essentially the same thing. Now, when you look at the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, Section 809, which talks about the validation of debt, which I included a link in the description below, you'll find that the legal text uses both debt validation and debt verification in the same context. Now, what it seems like happens is that some companies or people use the different verification versus validation to confuse you, the consumer. So don't be confused. Know that they're basically the same thing. So if someone's like, oh, well, you need to do debt verification, but in this instance, you need to do debt validation, I would question that logic and understand what exactly they're meaning by the difference of those two terms. So the next thing I want to cover is should you use a debt validation firm, right? There's companies that will say, well, we'll invalidate the debt for you. And this is kind of coming down to a personal experience. So we spoke with someone the other day that recently went with a debt invalidation company to essentially send debt validation letters. And now this gal enrolled about $28,000 of debt with the debt validation firm. And they put her on a plan of $205.51 for 72 months. And I'm including some images that show you kind of what I'm referring to, right? So this debt validation actually just recently went bankrupt. But my question to them is why would they put a Chase account to validate? Chase is one of the biggest banks. Obviously, they'd be able to validate their debt. And why would you charge 50% of the debt approximately for debt validation services? A debt validation company may just send out the debt validation letters that you just created earlier in the video. So like, what's the purpose? What are you actually paying for? And so that's a question. Like personally, I'm not sure I would ever pay any money for a company to do debt validation, because oftentimes many of these creditors may, even though that you don't like them, doesn't mean that they can't validate the debt that you may have signed up for, right? There's processes that most of these companies go through in order to not get the debt validated. So it's just something to consider when you're thinking about this. Like, what companies, like, why wouldn't you be able to do what these companies are pitching for, right? And for way cheaper, right? Like for the, it might be for the cost of postage or a little bit more than that. So just something to consider if you're thinking about that option. So finally, I want to cover just like how to resolve the debt. So if the debt is valid and the debt is within the statute of limitation, the debt collector may try to sue you at some point for that unpaid debt. So like, what can you do to resolve it? And so there are kind of four main options that people consider when they're kind of trying to resolve their debt. One of them is debt management, also known as nonprofit credit counseling. And that's a great option, but it only reduces the interest rate, so it might not save you that much money. One is debt settlement or debt relief. The challenge with that, there's like a lot of companies that I don't know if I would recommend to someone, because I feel like they don't necessarily always put the client's interests in mind, keep them in mind. So, but they're trying to reduce the amounts of the debts, and that's potentially an option. And then the final two options are like bankruptcies, like Chapter 7, Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and those are kind of options. But a lot of people want to stay away from them. Some people are realizing that they might be best for them. And I guess the fifth option would be kind of debt payoff planning. But oftentimes, if you face a financial hardship, you're not actually able to do that. Now, our free debt resolution cost calculator, you can get a link in the description below. It kind of outlines all of the different costs and pros and cons of those options. And you can also see it on our hardship hurdle. But I just wanted to kind of give that to you as an option of how to resolve this debt. I hope this video is helpful into kind of helping you determine, a free debt validation letter template that we built that hopefully will help you validate debt and maybe stop debt collection calls. Super stressful, so we are there for you. I'd love to answer any questions that you have. Give us a call if you have any questions. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.